Hey, I'm Carl Lanning, Brazos River Charter School with This Week in History, specifically the week of May 24th through the 30th. Well, first of all, this is being recorded on Memorial Day. Memorial Day should be a day that we remember that freedom is not free, and I know that sounds like an old cliche, but it's true. There are thousands and thousands of these, not just in the United States, but around the world, that are testimony to the fact that freedom is not free. So please keep in mind Memorial Day. Well, let's see what we have for this particular week. We have future President Andrew Jackson, our seventh president on May the 30th of 1806. Future President Andrew Jackson was involved in a duel. Now, the difference between this one and the speculative 100 or so other duels that he was in is that this is the only one in which his opponent ever died. You see, in dueling, each man would have a second, and the job of the seconds was to try and work out some kind of an amicable agreement between the two so that it didn't actually come down to the duel itself. By the way, this is a reproduction of one of Jackson's dueling pistols. The idea that sometimes it worked out that way, other times they would actually show up at the location of the duel, fire their pistols into the air, honor had been served, and they would go all about their ways. The problem is that Charles Dickinson and Andrew Jackson were going to have none of this. These two men had a long-standing hatred of each other, and in this particular case, the duel was a result of alleged reneging on a bet on a racehorse. So this one was going to come down to the actual fight itself. Now, Jackson wore on that particular day a heavy coat, and he turned himself to the side. The idea of the heavy coat was to break up his outline and, of course, make it a little bit harder for Dickinson to figure out exactly where the kill shot should be placed. This was all perfectly within the rules. Jackson also decided to give Dickinson the first shot, hoping that he would rush the shot. The problem is that Dickinson had already killed 26 men in duels, and he didn't miss this time. When he fired, the bullet did strike Jackson. It broke a couple of ribs and lodged next to his heart. Dickinson, though, thought that he had just wounded him. He was actually very shocked that Jackson didn't fall. According to protocol, Dickinson had to remain in place while Jackson fired his shot. Jackson hit Dickinson squarely in the chest, and he died later on that night. Jackson, by the way, the bullet stayed in him for the rest of his life, along with another one that he had received in his arm in a drunken brawl several years earlier. So Jackson went on for the rest of his life with two bullets in him. The joke was that he rattled a little bit when he walked. So Andrew Jackson's only duel in which he killed a man. Let's see here. Then we go to Mr. Cornelius Vanderbilt, sometimes better known as Commodore Vanderbilt. On May 27th of 1794, Cornelius Vanderbilt was born. He started off working with his father, who operated a boat that ferried cargo around Staten Island and Manhattan. He went into the same business, over the years acquired a number of these boats, built up his own fleet. Then he got interested in the steamboat business. So he actually went to work for a steamboat company and learned everything that he possibly could about the steamboat business. Within a matter of several years, Cornelius Vanderbilt pretty well dominated the coastal trade up and down the east coast of the United States. As far as sea cargo, he then recognized the possibilities of railroads. And so in the 1840s, he started building railroad lines that pretty well led to every major city east of the Mississippi River, realizing, of course, that that was also very good for the steam shipping business. So this man became a very dominant force in this, in the entire shipping business in the eastern United States in the first half of the 19th century and a little bit into the second before he went into semi-retirement. By the time he did die, he would be worth around $200 billion in today's dollars. By the way, I forgot to mention, he accomplished all of this while being almost entirely illiterate. His signature was in an illegible scrawl, but apparently he had a very near photographic memory and a great recall of detail. My favorite story about Commodore Vanderbilt involves a visitor to his office who was extremely upset that one man should be so wealthy. Apparently gave Vanderbilt's secretary an earful. Vanderbilt's secretary came into his office and let him know what the man was there and what he was on about. Vanderbilt said, invite him in. You come in as well. So the man vented and ranted and raved about how it was so wrong that one man should be so wealthy. Vanderbilt turned to his secretary and said, what is my approximate net worth? He got the number, he wrote it down. He said, what is the approximate population of the United States? He was given a number, he wrote that down, did a little mathematics, reached into his desk, pulled out 17 cents, handed it to the man, and said, there's your share of my wealth. Now get the hell out of my office. So, Commodore Vanderbilt. On May 24th of 1626, I mentioned to you last week what is sometimes considered the greatest land swindle ever took place. It may well be true, but not as understood. Supposedly, the Dutch bought the island of Manhattan from the Indians who lived there for $24 worth of glass beads, which, given the rise in property values, that would be quite a purchase. Well, the records show, though, that actually the transaction amounted to about 60 guilders, paid along with another 60 guilders, actually for Staten Island as well. Axes, kettles, awls, various different metal contraptions. Estimates in today's currency are all over the place, but probably somewhere in the ballpark of about $10,000, which actually still isn't bad for Manhattan, which when you think of New York and you see the big tall buildings, that's it, and Staten Island. Now, the only problem is the greatest land swindle ever. Well, it was the Dutch who got swindled because the Indian tribe that sold it to them didn't actually own either island and had no settlements on either one of them either, which caused no shortage of trouble with the Dutch later on down the road with the tribe who actually did. Yeah, maybe it was the greatest swindle ever, and the Dutch got swindled. Well, that'll take care of us for this week, but to let you know what's coming up, next week we will take a look at possibly the only man who was very, very happy to have been in solitary confinement on the night that he was. That'll take care of us for this week. I'm Carl Lanning, Brazos River Charter School, and we look forward to seeing you right here next week.